Let's get back. You're live.
Hey everybody, we're live here on YouTube, and this is a giant experiment. Ryan's back here on the camera, so he's shrinking me. Good. And am I straight?
You're straight.
Hey, I'm straight. So guys, we don't know how this is going to work. We've never gone live with a what?
Flip around.
Oh, flip around.
Hey, there's your face.
Oh, okay. Do you want to back up and so we can see what's going on back there?
We'll show them.
We'll show them.
Yes.
Okay, we'll show them. So we'll flip. So we're here at David Crockett Birthplace State Park, Tennessee, in Limestone, Tennessee, and this is a very special weekend, a special event. We're here shooting a video they're working on raising a log barn here and using as much as they possibly can with period techniques and tools. And so this is the start of the weekend. They're going to be building this barn all weekend long, Saturday, Sunday, even into Monday. If you're in this area, man, get a chance to come here to Eastern Tennessee. This is a great event that's going on. There's vendors down by the river. There's lots of camping going on. I think there's going to be a shoot going on. Isn't there a shoot going on? So a bunch of different things going on here this weekend. It's really exciting, and we're here to shoot video of this barn raising to use for multiple episodes, also for research, because I want to be doing a project for James Townsends and Son, building a cabin. And so these guys are the experts. They built lots of cabins. There's a hunter's cabin that's already been built earlier this year. There's some cribs. There's a chicken coop that's built with log. So these guys know what they're doing. They've looked at a lot of period cabins, so they have the expertise. So these are the guys to go to see what log cabins are like. So I'm really excited to come to here and watch this, videotape it, turn it into a DVD or whatever it takes. So we're having a lot of fun. I got Ryan here. And so can we see chat here, Ryan? Can we take questions and answers?
I can only see 2 or 3 comments at a time. It's really difficult, but I'll try my best.
Right.
Be patient with me, folks. Let's walk that way.
Okay,
show what's happening. We'll get to the
way.
other side and then.
Right. So we're going to get on the other side of this. Here, follow me. Here we go. Here you can see these guys. What we're going to do is, because of the sunlight and all that good stuff, we're going to try to get on the other side of this so you can see them working in the background and me at the same time. So you go ahead, Ryan. I'll catch up with you on the other side. So you just go right through the site here. See if I can catch up with you. There we go. How about that?
There's John.
You gonna get a good spot?
Yeah.
There we go, guys. So you get to see about what's going on here with the project. They've just been working on it about what time is it? 4 o'clock now?
Yeah.
It started maybe about 10 o'clock. They took a break there in the very middle of the day because it was hot here. And so everybody, it's like, okay, it's time to eat lunch, take a nap. But they're back at it. And this is actually going pretty rapidly. This is going to be one of those kind of 2-tiered barns with a hole in the middle. I think a dog trot. Well, I don't know. I'm not totally versed on cabin terminology, but so they've got the one started here. Got the second one they're working on beside it, and they'll join those up and have a roof over the top of the whole thing. And we're catching all the different techniques and all the different skill sets you need as you're putting together something like this. And it's really interesting to watch them work. And so far the crew's rather small. They all know exactly what they're doing. Tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, we're gonna have a bunch of volunteers in here, so they're gonna have to be training these people about these fresh volunteers about how to do each one of these skills. It'll be fun to capture some of that so we can watch people learning about the individual skills they need. What do you think, Ryan? Do you have any
Well, I can't read them because it's so darn bright out here. I wish I could.
It is challenging with a live stream like this. You can't see them?
I can't.
Oh gosh, guys, you you had questions, what would they be?
Why are you putting me on the spot? That's a question that I would ask. How many folks do we anticipate are going to be here helping to
Yeah,
build
so
this?
right now you can see we got a crew of about, what, a dozen folks here working. We expect at least 30, up to 50 volunteers over the weekend. Probably some will come and go, but they'll actually be kind of pouring in here. It's Friday. As the evening comes through, people are getting off work and they're going to come here, go camping, and working on the project here. So it'll be really great to watch these people come in and start to engage with this project.
What tools have you seen them using so far?
So far, tools-wise, a lot of plain axes. You can imagine somebody coming into the deep frontier, and this is the perfect spot. I mean, right here, right after the Revolutionary War, people are coming into this area, and they're setting up their homesteads. In fact, we were talking to somebody just earlier today, and he lives in the stone house of the man who originally came in here and settled this area. He owned all this property, and this being David Crockett's birthplace, Crockett's father was a tenant farmer right here in this area. Of course, so David Crockett is born here. So he lives in the house of the man who actually owned the property, and that's 1783, didn't he say something like that? So right after the Revolutionary War, this area is really getting to be settled. So, and I forgot what the question was.
What tools have you seen?
What tools? So you can imagine people coming into this backcountry at that time period. What kind of tools did they have? This original house that gets built here is stones, built by a stonemason from Pennsylvania. Probably a very, very nice house of the time period. But these tenant farmers are coming in here and they're building very, very primitive structures. Right off the bat, they're building very small, very primitive cabins. If you watched the Backwoods of Canada episode that was they described these cabins on the inside. These are the kind of cabins these people are living in at this time period. They're working with the most primitive tools. They're going to be using axes. They've got some broad axes to do some hewing work with, so a real wide-bitted axe. There are some adzes. I'm not sure what
is this hook that they grab onto the log with? Do you know what that's called?
A cant hook.
Okay.
For grabbing onto logs and moving. That's probably a fairly modern version of a cant hook. They had similar kinds of cant hooks in the time period. They've got some hollow adze to carve out kind of hollows, but like the saddle notches they're putting on these, the saddle notches are basically done with just an axe. So how much of a cabin like this can you do with an axe? Almost all of it, if you really have to. It makes it more difficult if all you have is an axe, but if that's all you've got to work with, they can build a cabin with just that. We've got some saws. You can see over here, we've got somebody working with the shave horse, and he is working on pegs. There's almost no nails in this structure, so this is just going to be pegged together in a lot of different ways. The shingles that go on the top, the rafters are pegged into place. There'll be logs on top of the shingles to hold them down. Those are pegged into place because iron is expensive and there's just no reason. If you got pegs, you can make these pegs right out of the wood that's available to you right here in the area. That's what they're going to be using. This particular cabin is made with poplar. And if you look at this, these are not huge logs they're working with over here. Stuff that's probably 10 inches in diameter, 8 inches in diameter, maybe up to a foot, but not much bigger than that, because one man really has to be able to wrangle these logs.
How long does the log need to be dried before it's used?
These guys are green. In fact, green is better. You can see here, they've actually stripped the bark. They've debarked the whole tree. Instead of just ripping the bark off in long little strips, which you can do if you're trying to do it quickly, they've actually sort of debarked the whole tree on purpose, leaving these big pieces of bark to use for other projects later on. We were talking earlier, just 10-15 minutes ago, about the bark here and about the idea that maybe we could use them for shingles, but in this case, they're actually saving this bark to use for things like baskets and other craft projects. This bark probably isn't the best for roofing materials, but in other places, different kinds of bark have been used for roof coverings, but probably not tulip bark. And these are tulip poplars, a fairly light tree, and in this case, of course, green, not real long pieces, not real big around, so that one man can do it. The interesting thing about this project, though, is it's being done as a group or a community project, which many of these like cabin raisings were. So you would get all your neighbors to come in and help you put up your barn, put up your big house. Maybe your small cabin, you built that by yourself. Maybe you didn't have any neighbors, so it's a rather small thing. But as you get more neighbors and you're building bigger buildings, you gather everyone around in the community to build this. And this is this perfect example of this community building effort. What do you think,
Well, I
Ryan?
can't see any comments because the sun came back out.
Yeah, the sun came back out. Yep. It's been fun to watch the different guys kind of pass on their knowledge and the fresh new people that don't have any experience, and so you kind of give them the simple job at first, and then you can train them up into more difficult jobs as you go along. They can watch somebody who's experienced to work on these individual skills that they already know, and then they can pass those skills on as the weekend goes forward. So this has been fun to watch already, and really the event hasn't even started yet. So it's really a great one with lots of different kinds of people that are interacting here. So maybe people that have been reenacting for decades, and then other people that maybe have only been doing it a couple of years.
Yeah, they said that they have some folks show up and they need clothes because they don't already have clothes, but they want to participate.
And there was a great story here earlier this year. There's the small cabin. You can't see it because it's behind you, but this particular state historic site has been around for a long time. But only very recently have they started working on it as a living history site. So they've only just started building these cabins in this site, and they had someone visiting the historic site that was basically just passing through. He was going to spend a week out on the East Coast. He gets here while the cabin's building. He says, "This is the best thing ever," and he stays the entire week and helps build the cabin. And they have some clothing. They kit him out in rental, or not rental, but a borrowed set of clothing, so he could help basically build the cabin all week. And that was the best thing, instead of continuing to go out east. So he only planned to spend a day, but he ended up spending the whole week. Do we want to go up here and look a little closer at what's going on?
Sure.
We got a couple guys here. There's Jim Wilson in the green. He has been in videos on our channel before. We got a sort of a first-person video that we did at Martin Station a few years ago. Jim's there. I think that's Mike Long. Some of these guys I know, other ones I don't. But let's go over and see what's going on with the. So what? Oh yeah, let's go see what's going on with this notching. We'll stand over his shoulder and we'll watch the notching here for a second. Oh, maybe he's gonna rest. It's always like that. He's holding down the arms. Well, guys, since I can't interact with questions, I'm not sure where to go next. You can't shade that enough to see what's
I'm
going
trying here.
on. It's really tough.
How long will we be here for?
We are going to be here Saturday, Sunday, and part of Monday. Hopefully, we'll be able to capture the maximum quantity. Hopefully, they'll be done, at least done with the major portions of this structure by Monday afternoon. We have to get back to the other kind of work we do. So hopefully, we'll see. But we'll be here through Monday.
Somebody asked if we could show the process of stripping the logs.
Stripping the log. Well, they aren't working on it right now, so unfortunately,
We will.
yeah.
We will show the
Yes,
process.
we will. We've got a lot of footage of all these different steps going on so far. But just to give you a real quick explanation on these are pretty easy to peel. We wait for this mower to power down. Good. What they'll do is they'll come along. Hey, can you get up close on this log?
I can try.
Okay. So they'll come in with an axe and they'll cut along the top of this log and slice it basically from top to bottom, and then put wedges in and start to peel this bark back on either side. And then they'll put wedges and continue to peel all the way around until the whole piece of bark basically comes off in a full sheet. And you can see these guys that are drying out here basically in full sheets on the ground. Later on, they'll take these pieces of bark, even after they're dried, and toss them in the river or pond, and that will make them much more flexible. There you go. You can watch them carrying a piece there. And once this has sort of stayed in a pond or a river for a while, they'll get to be much more flexible. Then you can bend those, turn them into baskets, or whatever kinds of work you want to do with it. And this is that same kind of bark that we used in the Frontier series to make a rope with. So the inner bark of this tulip, very, very fibrous. You can work that up and actually make it into a rope. That's why it's really good for a basket too. It's going to hold its shape.
I can see the questions now.
Hey, good.
Would they have lived in these barns at all?
Basically, the barn structure is going to be very similar to a house structure, and obviously they lived in the houses. The barns are for animals and for storage of fodder and grain, things, the food for the animals. So if you read the accounts of, say, like soldiers, or other kinds of travelers, sometimes they had to lodge in a barn because there was no other room. That happens quite often, especially for soldiers.
Is mortar going in between the logs?
This, I think, will have a mud mortar just like the cabin, and we could walk over.
Yeah, let's go take a
and
look at
that cabin. So let's walk over here. This cabin.
It's gonna get crazy, guys.
Yeah, careful. Sorry about that. Probably can lift it straight up. There we go. So, go ahead, keep coming up here, Ryan. This is the cabin they built earlier this year in the same kind of a project. They had a lot of people come in. So this was probably only, I don't know, 3-4 months old, but done very similar. And you can see that the log pieces, as you chip these out, you end up with these little pieces of log. Sometimes you might split out and make a little triangle and fill this in. And then you come in here and mud and clay. If you've got, clay and straw. If you've got sand, you can actually make like a cob mixture, and you won't get as much shrinkage. So that's one of these things. Depending on what kind of materials they had available with you, at the location, you can make good or bad chinking. But you can see first you put in log pieces like this, wedge it in tight. Then you don't have to have as much clay to fill in these gaps. And in other places, like much more northern climes, you would use moss and other things to plug up these holes to get it as weatherproof as possible. But there was no keeping all the wind out. That was for sure.
We just had a $10 donation. I didn't catch the name, but thank you.
Thank you
It
so
says you're a trooper for being out on a hot summer day. Thank you very much.
It is hot, but it's totally worth it too, because this kind of project doesn't happen every day, and I really want to be out here capturing whenever something like this happens, so that other people can do it and so that I can do it too.
So just so you guys know, we're on site. We don't have the normal equipment. We're using the cell phone. That's why the audio's down. And that is also why some comments are coming through that wouldn't typically come through. So we're sorry about that. But we don't have the four-person setup today. We just kind of have a
We're running
shoot.
gun with
Yeah.
nothing but a cell phone, so, and we don't even know what the connection is like here. So we're doing our best with what we have available to us. But this cabin it's great. If you go to the David Crockett historic website, you'll be able to find some of the pictures of this in process. The guy's working on this, and hopefully we've already got some just stunning, wonderful footage and pictures of the project going on so far. So we should have a lot of footage and a lot of great episodes coming up on this building thing. It'll be great to take this knowledge home and to build one on site at Townsends, really close to where the kitchen is.
So again, where are we at right now?
Right now, we're at the David Crockett Birthplace State Historic Site in Limestone, Tennessee. So it's in very, very kind of eastern Tennessee, actually close to the North Carolina border. It's wonderful, beautiful here. This is a convergence of, I think, is it Limestone Creek and the Nolichecki River, something like that. So a couple rivers come through. There was a fort very close to here, Fort Lee. So this is, sort of an active site in the 18th century. So it's a great site, and they're just now sort of really working on making this site a lot more living history oriented. For many years this site's been here, but it hasn't had a real living history component to it, even though a lot of people were interested in David Crockett and would come here for those interesting things, but there wasn't a lot of historic things going on here. But now they're really working at developing that, and there's so much going on at this site now. It's really fun to watch it build. Most sites, you come to, it's already been done. It was done 20, 30, 40 years ago. This one, it's happening now.
What would they do to cover windows in the cabin like this? Would they just be open?
Well, many times they're just going to be open. If you look at this cabin, let's go around to the side, and we'll do our best here. You can see this cabin, this would be like the first cabin. Maybe we should try the other side so the sun isn't shining on the camera. Oh, sorry, ma'am. No problem. Didn't see you there. No problem. There we go. We can almost see what's going on. I don't know if you can get the camera low enough here. But there's there you go. So there's an actual kind of a, whoop, can we get there?
Jeez. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, wow. These people are all going to start throwing up here. Anyway, there's a little window here, but this cabin is almost without windows. This would be the kind of cabin that you would build first thing. So you move to a site like this, you don't have a chance to build anything bigger. This is the first thing. It's very crude, it's very small, no windows basically, one door. The light you get in is the light that comes through the door, maybe even the light that comes down the chimney. Earlier I think I talked about, it may be a video that I haven't released yet, but talking about building the chimneys. You can see this chimney here. It's one of these classic, actually made out of logs and clay, and the inside you would line with clay as best you can. In Nolan's book called The Bark House, he talks about a chimney like this, just like this, in his house that his father built in the 1830s in Michigan, right by Detroit, Dearborn, Michigan. And he says the top of the chimney was 2 feet deep and 4 feet wide. That's the top of the chimney, so you can imagine the whole fireplace would have been very wide. And it had a chimney built just like this with mud and logs. And he said, oh yeah, just before you go to bed at night, you'd bank up the fire, and then you'd look up the chimney to make sure it wasn't on fire. And if it was on fire, you'd go outside and pour a little water down to put out your chimney before you went to bed. So, we complain about our central heating, but it was much worse back then.
I think we need to say farewell, but also there's a lot of strange comments today.
Okay, well,
let's talk about that.
Sorry about not being able to kind of hold the comment section together. Normally on this channel we have people that are able to deal with comments and to kind of take care of them, but I've got a crew of one and he can barely see the screen as it is, so very sorry about that. We do our very best. And so we're gonna sign off today, but I really want to thank everyone who's been able to come along and join with us. If we haven't been able to see your like contribution with super chat or whatever, thank you so much for those, and all your comments, the good ones. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. If you get a chance to come out to Limestone, Tennessee, do so. This is a great event, and it's so many great things happening, and we hope to bring you lots of videos about those in the future. Thank you so much for all your support. Thanks for watching.